can't you tell us something else? No, it's time to tell the truth.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because telling the truth in a time of lies is revolutionary in and of itself. We got a moral crisis, a crisis of civilization, a crisis of democracy. And we got to stand up and address it. Think about, the president puts forth a plan called Build Back Better, and it's not even what we really needed. We needed much more.
That's right.
The best economics said we need $10 trillion over 10 years to lift folk out of what happened during COVID. But for a moment, here the president says, let's do 1.9 trillion, 190 billion. And we couldn't even have an honest debate. An honest debate about it. We couldn't have an honest debate about universal pre-care. We couldn't have an honest debate about putting $130 billion to expand Medicaid. We couldn't have an honest debate about putting $150 billion into housing. We couldn't have an honest debate about keeping child income tax credit. We couldn't have an honest debate about stopping evictions and people being put out of their homes because of the results of COVID. We couldn't have an honest debate. Instead, the first question was, well, it's going to cost too much. How much does it cost? Rather than the real question is, how much does it cost us to keep things like they are? Yes. How many lives? Yes. How many families? Yes. I can tell you, it cost us $1 trillion a year in lost economic productivity because of the child poverty in this country. It cost us $328 billion going into the economy because we refused to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes. If we just had a $1 per hour, for every $1 per hour that wages rise among workers in the bottom 60% of earners, government assistance programs fall by $5.2 billion. Yes. It cost us. Unstable housing among families with children cost us $111 billion in affordable health and special education costs. Yes. Over 10 years. Yes. Hunger cost us $160 billion a year in increased health care costs. Gender and racial wage gap cost workers $2.6 trillion a year in lost earnings. Our broken immigration system cost us $123 billion in lost contribution. Our healthcare system costs individuals $1.69 trillion on private insurance and out-of-pocket expenses. Yes. Universal health care would save our economy $278 billion a year. If we don't act on climate change, it's going to cost us $3 trillion every year. Our government has spent $21 trillion on war and militarizing our borders and the war economy since 2001. Our current military budget is more than North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, and Iraq combined. And one military contract could fund health care in every state that has denied Medicaid expansion. We got to come together. That's right. I hope these facts and so many more convince you of one thing. We've got to come together. That's right. Yeah. We can't be silent or unseen anymore. Do I have a witness? We can't be silent. That's why on June 18th, we're calling for a declaration and not a day. A mass poor people's low-wage workers assembly and moral march on Washington and to the polls. We've got to shift the moral narrative in this country. We've got to put a third Reconstruction agenda before this country. We've got to build power, because poor people now represent 32% of the electorate and 45% in battleground states. And if all poor folk get together, black poor folk and white poor folk and Asian poor folk and brown poor folk and native poor folk, if we all get together, with our allies. We have power.